Welcome to the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. This is a podcast for male survivors of sexual abuse and assault, whether as a child or as an adult. Know that you are not alone and the abuse was not your fault. My name is Mike Chapman. I'm a certified recovery life coach and also a survivor. Let's find hope and healing together. And welcome to the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. I'm your host, Mike Chapman. And with me today is Dave Lukins. More about him in a moment. And we normally record live with an audience because Dave is from Australia. We've had to tweak our time to be able to record at a time where we're both awake. So this is not with a live audience this time around. But if you would like to join us on future episodes live, you can learn more about how to do so at my website, polarlifeconsulting.com/live. And let me give an intro to Dave. Dave is a 40-something father of twins who grew up in southern New South Wales, Australia. He is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, which began at age 7 and continued between ages 11 and 13. After carrying this trauma in silence for over 32 years, he first disclosed it just over 2 years ago. Since then, Dave has been on a roller coaster of a healing journey, recently receiving a diagnosis of Complex PTSD, also called C-PTSD, and learning what that means for his mental, emotional, and relational well-being. This journey has involved confronting painful memories, reclaiming his story by returning to his childhood hometown, and rebuilding trust and safety in his life. Part of Dave's healing has also involved reclaiming back both his mind and physical body through fitness, healthier eating, and connecting with supportive male communities. For the first time, he has experienced genuine safety and brotherhood through survivor groups, men's retreats, and close friendships. And he now mentors younger men navigating similar journeys. Alongside his personal healing, Dave has recently stepped into child safety advocacy, collaborating with other survivors of childhood sexual abuse to advise various university research projects focused on safeguarding and abuse prevention within educational environments and community sports. Through sharing his story and contributing to meaningful change, he hopes to give voice, encouragement, and hope to others on their own healing journey. So, with that, let me start off like we do most episodes with 4 questions. Now it's time for 4 questions, that part of the podcast when we get to know our guest a bit better by asking a few questions. Let's go. So, Dave, what is your favorite food memory?
Yes, so I'm one of 4 boys, and growing up, some of us could be a bit fussy eating. So meal times were often a bit of a battle for my mother. My dad was a pastor, so he was often busy. So mum used to look after our meal times quite a bit. And my youngest brother was particularly fussy and picky with sandwiches in particular. And my poor mother tried every weird and wonderful combination of sandwich fillings that she could think of, yet he still refused to eat them. But I guess one day she hit jackpot with mashed banana and grated cheese on buttered white bread.
Wow.
And it sounds really gross. We all tried it and we all loved it. And I still eat it today as an adult. I freak everybody out.
So say that. Okay, so white bread, mashed banana, and what else?
And grated cheese.
Grated cheese, like cheddar or
Yeah, like we have.
wow.
We have tasty cheese over in Australia, like grated tasty cheese. And yeah, it kind of just reminds me of happy times around the kitchen table, having like a family lunch together or something. But it's a really weird combination, but it's kind of like salty but mushy. And
it's that salty sweet thing, yes.
Yeah, but and buttered white bread or on buttered white roll. But yeah, it's weird, but I still eat it to this day and I love it.
That's funny. In the U.S., you can have peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and that's also that salty sweet thing. Very similar. And yeah, I know my mother always loved a cheddar cheese with her apple pie, which we always thought was weird, but that's a thing. But it's this fruit and cheese thing. So you get the salty and the sweet. And yeah, it enhances like the salted caramel that's so popular. You get the savory and the sweet, and they balance each other out, and it enhances the flavor. Very, very interesting. Yes, that's a new one for sure. So, what is your favorite Christmas or holiday memory?
Yeah, so yeah, with dad being a pastor, mum would have to try and keep us occupied because he had like a church service at 8 o'clock in the morning and then one at 10 o'clock. And so present opening wasn't until later in the day after we'd had family lunch and in the afternoon opening up presents. So it wasn't a tradition for us opening up presents under the tree when we woke up. Mum would kind of um, combat that by basically making us some special Christmas stockings, and these would be quite large ones, and they'll be full of stuff to kind of keep us busy and occupied until and stop whinging basically until we got through morning church and then lunch and then in the afternoon. So there'd be things like a book to read or a puzzle book, Lego sets, craft, card games. Something to run around and play with outside, a chocolate bar, and that was a big treat for us because mum never gave us chocolate very rarely. Fruit was considered a treat when we were kids, and there'd be some other random toys as well. And we never really did the Santa thing as kids. Evidently, I was terrified of Santa, which is kind of ironic that I'm talking to a professional Santa right now. Yeah, mum said at the shops at age 2, one was trying to follow us around the supermarket and like trying to say hello, and I was screaming and he didn't kind of get the hint. And so since then, and my older brother kind of called Santa Santa's Claw. And so, yeah,
Instead of
um,
Santa Claus, and
yeah,
Santa's Claw.
Santa's Claw. And
Yes.
so we kind of never really did never did the Santa thing as kids, but we definitely just did the stockings. And yeah, favorite memories is getting up early with the brothers, to open up the stockings early in the morning. And I remember we used to put the empty stockings at the end of our bed, and they weren't very pretty stockings either. They were kind of like these big, oversized plastic bag sort of things with Christmas print on them. So they weren't nice, delicately sewn, handmade ones or anything. And so they're quite crinkly and noisy, so you could kind of hear the plasticky noise. And so we'd often hear mum sneak into the room at the night time and take the stocking and then return a half an hour later with it full of presents. And I remember just the satisfaction and yeah, kind of a sense of gratitude too, I guess. Kind of just yeah, reaching and gripping, and you could feel and pat the stocking in the dark and know, oh, there's some goodies in there, and then you go to sleep just dreaming about what could be inside. And yeah, it was always exciting, fun little things. So yeah, that was always a fun thing. And mum kept on doing these stockings for us right through childhood, then into our teenage years, and even early young adult years when we're living at home. But they kind of lost the appeal because it was kind of becoming mainly socks and undies and deodorant by those in those times. So yeah,
Right.
but definitely as a kid, we used to love getting the Christmas stockings in the morning.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And my children are old and they live on their own. And I think, yeah, that we kind of faded out stockings finally. Finally. Yeah. Only very recently. So, what is your favorite church or house of worship memory?
Yeah, so probably my favorite memory would be the combined churches Easter sunrise service. So in the country town where I grew up, we used to all kind of descend on the local town lookout, which is kind of this beautiful lookout up in a hill that overlooked the whole valley where we lived. And so
Nice.
people from all the churches, all the local community churches would gather together. I remember getting woken up super early in the morning. It was still dark. We'd rug up really warm. We'd grab picnic blankets and chairs and things, and we'd jump in the car and drive to this lookout on the outskirts of town. And there'd be people from all different churches from my local town, and we'll gather together for like an acoustic service out in the open air. And yeah, we'd pray, we'd hear a message, and then we'd be singing worship songs as the sun was rising up over the valley below. And it's kind of kind of a real sense of community together as God's people. And we always finish with a barbecue breakfast before heading back for Easter eggs at home. So yeah, that was kind
Very,
of my favorite sort of memory growing up.
very nice. Very nice. Easter would be kind of in the fall time or in
Yeah,
the autumn for
autumn for
you.
us. Yeah, so
Right.
it's getting
Right. Where
cold.
it's spring for us. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. And Christmas always warm. Yeah.
Oh,
Because that's summer for you. Right.
yeah. Well into
Right.
I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but yeah, well into the 40 degrees sometimes over in
Right.
Australia. It gets quite warm.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, what is your favorite scripture or any inspirational quote that has helped you on your spiritual journey, and what about it speaks to you?
Oh, this is a really hard one because there's so many verses in the Bible, particularly in my healing journey at the moment that I've been clinging on to at the moment. But I guess I kept coming back to Matthew 11, verses 28 to 30. And it reads, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." So I think it kind of, yeah, just reminds me as a survivor that I don't have to kind of carry all this pain alone. I've been diagnosed with C-PTSD and been quite hypervigilant my whole life. And I find it really
Right.
hard to kind of let my body relax and wind down. Yeah, I just always switched on all the time and kind of watching my back and always alert and kind of, yeah, can't slow down. So that's kind of been a big, real struggle for me sometimes. And yeah, so it kind of speaks to me with all the weariness and burdens I might be carrying, that God promises to bring that rest and that healing despite what's happened to me as a kid. And I think the invitation for him to take my yoke upon you and to learn from me helps to reassure me that Jesus is walking alongside me and gently guiding me with care. And it kind of helps to kind of take me to that safe place where I can be free from fear and shame, basically. So yeah, I kind of find encouragement with that one. And yeah, I kind of find it hard to rest, but I guess I'm getting better at it, but I'm still working on it.
Right. We're always a work in progress, but yeah, that verse says a lot because we tend to carry these huge burdens of all of the guilt and the shame and all of that. And he can take all that from us.
And I've carried mine for 32 years and only kind of started sharing more about it in recent times. And so, yeah, there's kind of a lot of stuff bottled up, and
Right.
yeah, kind of learning to start to release that in safe
Right.
and ways.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and start hearing your story of your abuse history, however much you would like to share. And then from there, I would love to hear more about your healing journey, what things you have tried that have been helpful for you, and what things that you've tried to help with your healing that turned out, yeah, not so much, not very helpful at all. Because we've all tried all kinds of things to help us, and some things work, some things don't. Some things works for one person, but they don't work for another. So would love to hear about that, and then what you're doing these days as well.
Yeah, so I guess basically I disclosed my story for the first time probably about just over 2 years ago, I'd say. And about a month ago, I actually went public on my Facebook page to my friends and family. And some of my sort of immediate circle knew about stuff, but yeah, a lot of my wider circle had no idea about it. And so, yeah, there's over 500 or something of them. And I kind of, shared this statement. And yeah, I'll start by reading my statement today. So that starts. Hello, friends. Today marks, and I actually shared this exactly on the 2 year mark, actually. So I'll
Wow.
read it again. Yeah. Hello, friends. Today marks exactly 2 years since I first broke the silence about something I'd buried deep for over 32 years. I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and this is part of my story. And I had a picture of me just before the abuse happened on the post as well. And the smiling boy in this photo is me at almost 7. His world was Saturday soccer, pirate Lego, playing the Commodore 64, if you remember that back in those days,
Yes, I
piano
remember those.
lessons,
Yes.
climbing mulberry trees, and building volcanoes in the sandpit with a garden hose. He was curious, creative, and full of life. But not long after this photo was taken, his world changed forever. In year 2, at age 7, I was forced into a toilet cubicle and harmed by an older boy at school. It was a dim, dark toilet block with brick walls and a strong smell of urine. I vividly remember his cold, cold hands with rough, flaky skin. It was sudden, confusing, painful, and terrifying. It hurt. I didn't understand what had happened, and I didn't have the words to explain it. I shut down, dissociated. I don't know if it happened again. I've lost almost memory of that year. Then, a few years later, from ages 11 to 13, it happened again. This time, I was targeted and groomed by an adult male sports coach, someone in a position of trust. He seemed friendly and charismatic at first, but week after week after week, he used his position to take what he wanted. I was in years 6 to 8. I distinctly remember his cologne, his hairy arms, his creepy voice, and him breathing down my neck. I never put up a fight. I felt powerless to stop it. I froze. I kept silent. My little body was damaged, violated, and vandalized. My developing mind was riddled with guilt, shame, confusion, torment. That man knew exactly what he was doing, but I was just a child. It was not my fault. It was never my fault. When the second abuse with the coach happened, my behavior changed overnight. At home, I became angry, defiant, and volatile. I fought with my dad. I withdrew from my brothers. I clung to mum. My parents thought it was puberty or teenage hormones, but they didn't know the storm I was hiding inside. Growing up as a pastor's kid, there was always this unspoken expectation and pressure to be the model perfect family out in public. I learned to smile and serve. Happy faces, everyone, we were told. In an attempt to cope with my trauma, I became the good boy, the teacher's pet at school, or when out in public. I always wanted to blend in and never be the center of attention. I became the people pleaser, said yes to everyone, but struggled to connect and trust others, particularly males. I worked hard to seem fine on the outside while I was barely holding it together inside. I felt abandoned, dirty, and useless, and turned to food for comfort and control. I intentionally put on weight and avoided situations where I was more likely to be attacked again. I became incredibly cautious and hypervigilant, particularly in toilet blocks, locker rooms, and other sporting environments. I started hating on anything to do with sport, much to the bewilderment of my brothers. I quit singing, I avoided learning to drive, I turned down opportunities in life. I pulled away from scouts, youth group, anything else at the time that made me feel exposed. And for over 32 years, I carried this secret alone. It has shaped and affected every part of me. My body image, sense of identity, relationship, confidence, mental health, emotional maturity, trust in others, and most of all, my faith. For years, I didn't fully understand why I struggled the way I did with anxiety, depression, binge eating, and isolation. But now I know the body keeps the score. The past 2 years have been some of the most intense and painful of my life, but also the most freeing. With God's help and the support of my professional team, mates, and family, I've started the healing process, but it hasn't been easy. Therapy has taken me to the depths of the grief, anger, and confusion. I have been diagnosed with C-PTSD. Negative ruminations, insomnia, flashbacks, panic attacks, and graphic nightmares have become the norm. I've sat with the weight of what happened. I've cried. I've collapsed. I've passed out. I've caused harm to myself, and I almost ended things. But I chose life. I've gotten stronger. I've also experienced freedom, hope, peace, connection, community, true brotherhood. When my son turned 11 in November 2024, something deep inside me was triggered. Subconsciously, it took me back to the same age I was when the second wave of abuse began in my life. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the past, so I felt compelled to return to the place I had rarely dared to visit since leaving for university in 2002, my childhood country town. Going back meant facing memories I had long buried, but it also gave me the chance to reclaim what was stolen from me. I revisited the sites where the abuse occurred, stood near to where the pain once held me captive, and chose to take back my story. Along the way, I reconnected with 27 sets of people: childhood friends, old classmates, family friends, teachers, youth leaders, reminders of the good that had also been part of my story. What once felt like a town of shadows no longer has a hold on me. 2025 has been a turning point. I started training with a personal trainer, and for the first time in decades, I'm reclaiming back my body and my physical health. I've joined 2 weekly running clubs. I've lost nearly 19 kilos so far. The debilitating nightmares have eased, and I'm starting to sleep through some nights. I'm seeing glimpses of the strength I always had in me. I've connected with other male survivors of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life for the first time through a number of support groups. I've also developed some strong friendships. I now mentor several younger guys. I joined a men's Bible study for the first time and have attended a number of retreats too. I now know that I am not alone and that there are safe, supportive men out there in the world. I've participated in 4 university research projects on childhood sexual abuse, and I'm currently working as an advisor with another university on a study into child safety in community sport. I've realised that my voice matters. I've started singing in public again. In Australia, according to the 2023 Australian Child Maltreatment Study, 1 in 4 boys and 1 in 3 girls will experience childhood sexual abuse before the age of 18. That's the stats in Australia right now. One of the hardest things about childhood trauma is that it robs you of your voice. There is incredible stigma against speaking out, particularly for males. Most men will never disclose what happened to them as a kid, and those who do may take decades. But today, I want to say anyone out there who is holding a secret like mine, you are not alone. It was not your fault. Talk to someone. There is healing and support available. And to those who supported me on this journey so far, thank you. And to the little boy who thought he had to carry it all alone, you are God's beloved son. And then I said, thank you for reading, Dave. And that was my
Wow.
statement I shared.
Thank you. Yeah, so much to unpack there, but I didn't want to interrupt you, but I took lots of notes. Interesting, Australia, the stats are 1 in 3 and 1 in 4.
Yeah,
In the US, it's 1 in 4 for girls and 1 in 6 for boys. Again, they don't disclose, and they think that's an understatement. I'm sure they think the same thing in Australia because boys don't tell, and so
yeah,
it's often underreported.
yeah.
But interesting that it's even higher rates that they do acknowledge in Australia. I think that's interesting. 19 kilos, FYI, that's 42 pounds in in the US, which is significant. So bravo, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I
I think I don't.
know.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Interesting. You state you intentionally put on weight
Yeah.
because of the abuse. I
Yeah.
know that's part of my story. So, what was behind that, do you think, in your story?
Yeah, I think food kind of just became that sort of comfort and something that I could kind of control and do basically. And one of the things that didn't quite help, and my parents regret it and have said sorry, and they didn't realize it at the time, is we often had visitors over to our house because live right next door to the church, a church man. So it's pretty much an open house all the time. There's always Bible studies and lunches and people coming over and stuff. Mum had a cupboard of visitor snacks and things. So it was not meant to be touching them. There was
Ready
like
to go,
biscuits and
right?
all that sort of stuff. And I kind of, as my coping strategy, would start sneaking things out of the cupboard. And then Mum kind of would get a bit confused, and I swear I bought this packet of biscuits to have a Bible study tomorrow, and it's gone now. So she'd start writing visitors on them, and then things would still disappear. So she'd have a black sharpie and write on it. Then it became visitors only, and then my brothers dobbed me in, and she started writing "No David" on everything. And so
Oh,
basically, it was pretty, yeah, it messed me up a little bit. And so anything nice and treat wise in the house said no David on it. And I still rebelled and still ate it.
wow.
Yeah. And there's a kid's picture book called No David, which my brothers gave me as a birthday present once.
Oh,
The whole book is, yeah, but that was as an adult as well. They gave it to me as a joke. But yeah, it says No David basically on every page. And the kids, he's sneaking food on one of the pages and then he's getting in trouble on every page. But it finishes, yes, David, I still love you or something at the end. But yeah,
right.
it's kind of that sort of, yeah, no David throughout my childhood and always seeing it all the time and just wanting to, yeah, I guess rebel. And yeah, I avoided sporting environments like the plague and I started
Right,
hating
of
on
course.
anything. Like my brothers were always watching cricket on TV and football, things like that. But I detested it, and they didn't understand why. Because I used to play soccer, I used to absolutely love it, and then
Right.
when the abuse, particularly with the older coach later on, started overnight, basically my behaviour changed at home, and I didn't want to do sports anymore. I didn't want to be doing team sports and things, and I hated doing PE at school, and when I had to do sports, I ended up taking up athletics and running, and that was basically I wasn't involved in having to be in team environments and touching other guys or anything in close proximity. I could just run and just kind of see a point in the distance and just run towards it. And that's kind
Right.
of
So
free.
you could re-embrace that sports athlete part of you that you kind of gave up and put away because of the
Yeah,
abuse, and now reclaiming that
yeah,
with safety,
yeah,
which is good. I know for me, yeah, totally. Food was, yeah, drug of choice, very much comfort, but also it became a shield that if I was less attractive. I think it's all subconscious. If I was less attractive, then they would be less interested, you know.
that's exactly
And I
what
had
I thought.
blocked out all the abuse. So, but yeah, and I know you know my story, but yeah, that okay. If I'm not attractive, then that means I'm safer. That
Yeah,
it's more safe,
yeah,
and to be thin is not safe because that might draw attention. Yeah, all that subconscious stuff going on, besides the instant dopamine hit of food.
yeah.
Yeah,
Chocolate's my
yeah,
love it, but
right,
I shouldn't
right.
have too much.
So it wasn't the banana and cheese sandwiches then, right?
No,
But yeah, I get that absolutely. Now, you also mentioned the a set of memories started coming back when your son was the same age you were at age 11 when I think some of these events happened in your own life. I
that's
know
right.
that that's such a common theme, including my own story. When my daughter, my firstborn, was about 7 months old, that's when everything hit, and I started having the memories of uh, being abused. But it's like this whole lead up. It's like all this
Yeah, yeah,
craziness going on in my head, and then led me to the discovery that I had been abused. Yeah, I had blocked everything out until yeah I was 30 and my daughter was about 7 months old. It wasn't until 2019 going into therapy and then realizing, oh, my abuse actually started when I about 7 months old. So yeah, not even knowing that for years after that, like 25 years after knowing that yeah, it's something about the age, I don't know if it's the sounds, the smells, the shape of the body, all those things. It's like something clicks in our head, and it's like, oh, wait, I remember this. Wait, I remember this age. Wait, what's, and something just releases. And I've heard so many stories of men that has happened that exact same way. Their child gets to the age when that happens, and it gives you a different perspective. It's like, wait, okay, I know what happened to me was icky and weird, but I wouldn't have necessarily classified it as abuse. But oh my gosh, if someone did those things to my child, then
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. I found during COVID in particular, that was kind of a time where the world kind of stopped and you can kind of think about life a bit more. And that's when my son turned age 7. And that's when the first abuse had happened. And I was kind of having random little glimpses of things kind of bubbling up. And I was looking at the innocence of my son and like, what on earth? And I started to remember things happening and started having nightmares, but I kind of just pushed it all down and didn't say
Right.
anything for a couple more years after that. But yeah, it was kind of COVID was really a Kickstarter, I guess.
Right. I think for a lot of men, because we were so isolated that the activities that used to allow us to numb and ignore the pain and push it down because we were distracting ourselves with busyness,
Yes.
all that went away.
Yep.
The same thing, empty nesters, and I was an empty nester by this time. And yeah, there's no kids
Yeah.
to deal with and all
Yeah.
their stuff. You have all this time, and so you end up having to deal with all your stuff. And COVID, especially, it's like it's right smack dab in your face, and you have to deal with it. And I think it, uh, yeah, caused a lot of men to do a lot of soul searching for sure, and dealing with all of their whatever the demons or
Yeah.
skeletons or whatever you want to call it. Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes,
And I guess it was when my son turned 11, that's when kind of things really kicked into gear. So I'd already disclosed to some people about my abuse at this
right,
time, but I really felt convicted to head back to my hometown. And I'd only been there once or twice since moving away,
right,
and had blocked everything out and yeah, didn't really engage with that side of my past. But I really felt convicted, and kind of spontaneously called up some old family friends of my parents from my church, and said, "Hey, I've got some stuff going on. Would it be okay to kind of come down to visit at your place?" And they're like, "For how long?" And I said, "I don't know." And it kind of ended up being almost a week I was down in my hometown, and I kind
well,
of rocked up spontaneously to my old church and met with heaps of people there, and they're like, "What on earth are you doing here so randomly? You didn't tell us that you're coming down and stuff." And basically, for the next 4 or 5 days, I organised kind of catch ups with all these different people and reached out to different people and shared my story. And yeah, it was really healing. And I drove near to where things had happened to me, and I guess kind of I remember having a panic attack at that lookout when
right,
I was driving. I ended up having one in the car, and I ended up pulling over at that lookout where I was talking about earlier, where we used to go for Easter. And I kind of just looked out of the valley and took a deep breath and settled myself and prayed a bit, and then got back in the car, and then ended up going to. I think I was busting for the bathroom too, and I was driving into town, and I'm like, they have a Macca's here or McDonald's, or do you call them Mickey D's or whatever? Yeah,
Mickey
we call them
D's, yeah,
Macca's. Macca's in Australia.
Mackers,
Yeah, and so I remember there was one of those in town now since I'd moved away, and so I pulled into the car park, and then I didn't realise that when I got out of the car, directly over the road was where the abuse when I was 11 occurred, and I'm like, I'm really busting for the bathroom. I need to go in, so I did that, and then kind of had a bit of a mini panic driving out to my friend's house after that, but um,
right?
yeah,
Because those
but
memories just flood in when you go to the scene of the crime, as it were. Those memories just flood back. Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, so that was really tricky, but yeah, it was such an amazing time just reaching out to people, and and they kind of said this makes so much sense. And my parents had also, and my family also said that like this makes so much sense about what we know now about what you were like as a kid. And because I was an angel outside of home, but at home I was a bit of a terror. And so
right,
there seemed to be a lot of poor punishment on Dave because I used to be the one who used to push my dad's buttons. We got on really well these days, and there's a lot of stuff that we've worked through together, particularly as a teenager. We clashed big time. And when
right,
you're a pastor of two busy congregations, my dad was, he was kind of in full work mode. And so I wouldn't say he was neglectful or anything, but he was certainly distracted a bit.
right,
And I didn't
right.
kind of
That makes
feel that I
sense.
could comfortable that I could kind of share or talk about anything because I had no idea, no words to say about what had happened. Because for sex ed and stuff like that in Australia, we have this van that pulls up into the school car park, and there's kind of a giraffe, a puppet, and there's stars on the ceiling and things. People from Australia will know what I'm talking about. And then kind of this giraffe puppets talking about not smoking and not taking drugs and about what body organs you have. But I don't remember anything at that time. There's no mention about
Yeah, it's
your
more like puberty education. It's like, yeah, you're going to grow hair.
yeah,
You need to wear deodorant,
yeah, that kind of stuff.
that
And
kind of
it's like
thing.
a giraffe puppet telling you this stuff. Yeah, and so then another part of childhood was I kind of have kept every single thing from childhood, you name it, like books, teddies, toys, random scraps of paper, yeah, receipts of things, concert tickets, cinema tickets. And so I don't know if that was kind of a coping strategy, kind of, I wouldn't call it hoarding, but I've got several tubs out in the back shed in our
Hmm.
backyard of just stuff, and I can't seem to get rid of it because it just kind of, I don't know. And I've also got like a photographic memory of childhood, apart from that year at school where I've lost memory of what's happened at school because I don't know if the abuse happened again. I've got a photographic memory of all other parts of my childhood, and I can remember so much and so much detail. And my parents are like, "How do you know this stuff?" And even my brothers don't remember certain aspects, but
Right.
I just find it fascinating. I guess, yeah, trying to
Yeah.
hang on to these little fragments of memories and things, and it takes me right back, I guess.
Some call it eidetic memory. It's not quite photographic memory, but yeah, a lot of trauma survivors have it. It's like I think it's part of the hypervigilance. You need to remember stuff because this is important. It might be
Yeah,
life or death later. So you have to remember all these key elements of so many different things to
yeah,
keep you alive.
yeah,
And then they stick into long-term memory. Yeah, I remember, yeah, vivid details about a whole bunch of stuff. And then huge memory blocks too. But yeah, and then for the weird stuff, it's like just little vague pictures like coming into mind.
yeah. I find it ironic as an adult. Like, yeah, I guess one of the downsides of C-PTSD is memory loss, and like I have a shocking short-term memory at the moment, and yeah,
Right.
just trying to
Yeah,
remember things and what people have told me and follow through.
it's
And
like
it's
the
just
brain's full of old stuff because yeah,
yeah,
I'm the same way. I'm just over 60, and it's like, is it no? But I've been that way. It's like, no, you
there's
have
like
to
no agreement or
remind
anything
me.
else. Yeah,
Yeah, I tell my wife, you need to text me that whatever it is, it has to be in writing, or I will not remember it. She'll tell it to me, fine, and next minute, I mean, it's gone. So it's like, if like grocery list, if it's like one or two things I might remember, if it's more than that, nope, hang it up. That's it. Just send me a list. And she'll tell me, it's like, you can't remember. No, I can't remember. No, send me a
yeah.
list.
I just don't remember it. Yeah, but then I can
Yeah,
remember all this childhood from childhood.
it's like, because it's no longer life or death.
Yes,
It's like brain's full. Okay, no, I'm full of all the stuff to keep us alive, and that's nothing. So I don't have to remember that. It's almost like yeah, reverse coping or something. I don't know.
yeah,
It's interesting going back to the scene of the crime. A few years ago, I went back to Oregon, where I'm from, and this particular visit, I was able to go to the scene where the one quasi trafficking memory occurred.
mm,
And I go deep into the story, the camping event where we were sedated, but the station wore off. Me and two other boys were then kind of skirted off. Okay, all of us dads are going to be here at the lodge. You don't come anywhere near. You see this big boulder. Okay, you stay on this side of the boulder and you go play, and we'll bring you food, but don't get wet, and don't come past this boulder. And so that's what we did. Me and these two other boys I'd never met before, who were around my age. But I then went to this same camp, middle of nowhere, not very popular place to go, very small campground, very isolated, which it's okay, yeah.
mm,
But went there with my daughter, who's yeah, she's late 20s at that point, and she knew my story, and we kind of explored it together and took photographs. And yeah, the boulder was there, the lodge was there, there was some erosion and so forth, so not everything was there exactly, but that big boulder was certainly there. And yeah, just brought back a lot of those memories. And going back to the scene of the crime, yeah, it's interesting for me. I noticed how beautiful the place was and
mm,
how it wasn't the place's fault that all this evil happened. Because yeah, it was very beautiful. There's a mountain with a little glacier on top, as a lot of Oregon mountains are, and Beautiful lake, very pretty scenery, very calm place, beautiful place, but knowing this horrible evil happened there. Yeah, yeah, it was cathartic for sure.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and I'm sure it was likewise cathartic for you going back there to the scene of
absolutely.
the crime and dealing with all those. So,
Also, I guess seeing that, yeah, the town had moved on. There was change, and the school where stuff had happened, there was, yeah, they had a new name, and
right.
there's new buildings and lots of change, and yeah, life is still going on. And same with where the stuff happened in the sports situation. They're actually redeveloping the whole area and knocking down an old
Mm,
stadium, rebuilding things, and so I'm
right.
like, okay, and so I kind of feel like, yeah, the winds of change, I guess,
Yeah,
and
there's like healing. Yeah,
yeah, so yeah, it
yeah,
was a really terrifying initial experience, like just the thought of doing it, but I kind of felt that I had to do it. And it was my first time going back to that hometown by myself. In
right.
the past, I'd been with family or whatever, but yeah, so yeah, it kind of was a bit of a wild ride getting down there, but I'm so glad that I did it.
Right, absolutely. Now, you talked about disclosure, and did you disclose to your family? How did that go, and how was that received, and what was their response?
Yeah, so I first disclosed on like a Sunday night to some people, but that was only just about the abuse that happened at age 7. And so then the next day, which was a Monday, I had the day off, and I had been searching the name of this coach that I had as a kid for years on the internet, and nothing ever came up. And so I, yeah, just happened to search his name again, and lo and behold, 2 weeks earlier, he'd been arrested in a police sting and caught trying to groom a 16-year-old. And yeah,
Wow.
but I think it was, yeah, police sting. They caught him, and seeing his photo for the first time since then, he's brought everything back about the coach abuse.
So, when you heard about this guy being arrested, did you go to the police and say, "Hey, when I was younger, he did this same kind of thing to me, so I can totally vouch for that"? Did you do anything like that, or he's like, "No, I don't, no one."
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I can even deal with that side of things. I still haven't talked to police or anything. I don't think I will, but I know what happened, and yeah, I don't think I could cope with court or anything like that. And he's already in prison, and so that's kind of a closed door for me. But I ended up calling an emergency sort of meeting with my 3 brothers. They were kind of, oh, this is really weird. They didn't know what was going on, thinking I might have had cancer or who knows what. But I ended up, yeah, my parents were overseas at the time. And so my older brother was house sitting their house while they were away. And so I said, we need to get out the photo albums and things, and kind of, we're just digging through photo albums and like, what are we looking for and stuff. And we're waiting to get my youngest brother on the line. So we ended up doing a quick Zoom call with him, and he's like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And he happened to be on a particular court of what this sport was when I was a kid, and so he was kind of there in that sort of exact sporting environment that I was trying to find photos of and things. And so I kind of shared that, yeah, I'd been abused as a kid and stuff. Didn't go into too much detail at that point, and they looked very shocked and things. And yeah, we're just trying to find, I guess, photos of this coach with us in these album things. Because I'm like, I saw his photo today, and I'm like, it's 30 something years on. Is this the guy? And I was kind of doubting myself, but I'm like, no, this happened, and this is his name, and that's what he looks like. And I'd imagine that's what he looks like these days. Going through all the albums, we could not find a photo of him. So he just must have avoided being in photos. I don't know.
I'm sure that's part of the grooming. It's like, no, you make sure you're not, oh, no, no, I don't like to be in
Yeah,
photos. No, thank you.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's not like that guy right there. Yeah, there's no photographic evidence. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
that.
remember him.
Yeah,
I remember him being very charming and things, to the point where my mum only came down on my first coaching lesson to meet him, and she's like, oh, he seems okay. And then I would walk there myself, by myself, sort of year 6 onwards, by myself. And so, and it was a small country town. I used to walk to piano lessons in year 2 by myself, and
right.
you never thought anything of it. And so,
And
it
and
was,
that's part of the grooming process is you're not only grooming the child victim, you're grooming the gatekeepers of that child. So in your
yes,
case, the parents. So the
yeah,
parents, so you look very professional, very composed, very safe to the parents, so they will entrust the kid. Then after so long, if the child ever then says, yeah, I don't want to go to do this because it's
yeah,
like it's weird or whatever, it's like, how
yeah,
could you say him? He's such a nice man, he's doing all these things. And
exactly.
yeah, so then
Like
the
there was,
child would not be believed. That's
yeah.
part of the grooming. Absolutely.
Yeah, there are 2 younger brothers who were getting coached with me, and they were already well and truly groomed. They must have been doing lessons with him for a little while earlier. And I remember that, yeah, very touchy-feely, all over them, wanting us to sit in his lap all the time. And yeah, so
Did
yeah.
it go any further with them as well? Did they say, or?
Well, he would go on sports camps and trips away with just these two boys, and he'd take them away to these camps, and they'd come back with all these brand new sports gear and clothing. And I remember being really jealous and stuff, and him saying, "Oh, if you come along, you'll be able to get this stuff too." And Mum, thankfully, never sent me on these camps or getaways with this guy, thankfully. But yeah, all my abuse happened out in the court or the field of the sport that we're doing at the time. And so, yeah, these boys kind of didn't think anything of it with him always touching and doing that sort of stuff. And yeah, but it was kind of gradual, but then it kind of ramped up, and then it be kind of every week it was happening, and I didn't know what to do. And you're kind of like, oh, I'm not getting necessarily the attention at home, and you're like, I don't think I like this, but it's kind of attention. And
Right.
yeah, if that makes sense. But
Yeah. Part of the grooming is to normalize the abuse so that they think it's a special part of their relationship. It's so that the child actually ends up desiring and liking the attention. So you end up normalizing it to make it appear less icky. So then you can get away with
yeah,
it. That's all part of the grooming
you
process.
see him
Absolutely.
touching these other boys, and you're like, oh, okay, that must just be what coaches have to do, sort of thing. And you're like, but no. But looking back now, I'm like, oh my goodness. And my youngest brother remembers me warning him about don't let him touch you, don't sit in his lap type of thing. So he distinctly has memories of that happening, and then he has memories of this coach being really touchy-feely with kids and like thinking, oh, I don't want that. And so yeah, so it was
So it sounds
always
like nothing really, really bad happened to your brother at all.
nothing to
But
him.
okay.
He was kind of, yeah, a quite outgoing little kid, very energetic, the youngest of the family, whereas I was kind of one of the middle kids, and I
So
was
when you
naturally,
just so when you disclosed to him, what was his reaction, knowing that he knew that
yeah.
this coach?
And he was actually right in the middle about to play the sport that I was doing, which is very ironic. And he was there holding the equipment and on the field, and I'm like, oh wow. And so he was shocked but not surprised. And my brothers all said that. They were like, just something happened and we don't know what, and we could never put our finger on it growing up. And yeah, my
So they
behavior
noticed
changed.
a change in your behavior and
Absolutely.
your
Yeah,
personality.
yeah, absolutely. So I started like really bullying my next brother down, to the one in between me and my youngest brother, and yeah, calling him names and putting him down. And we used to be best buds up until sort of, yeah, late primary school. And yeah, suddenly overnight, I kind of just be taking it out on him. Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, my outlet, but it was not fair on him, and I've apologized since, and we've kind of moved on from that now. But yeah, and then I kind of was bottling everything up outside of home and just trying to, yeah, be that sort of perfect pupil at school. And but I never wanted to be the center of attention. I avoided having girlfriends. I remember a girl asking me and I turned her down. And then I remember trying to ask a girl and she's like, oh, you're cute. But then nothing ever happened of that. And so I'm like, oh, I just, yeah, didn't try to pursue relationships. And yeah, and I was particularly nervous around male teachers and coaches and anything like that. And then even my friends, to an extent, I kind of would never be real and vulnerable and open up with them about anything like this.
Right.
Because, yeah, there's an older kid at school who I thought I was friends with who did stuff to me, and may have happened more than once. I don't know. It's that year's blocked out, and it was pretty traumatic. And yeah, I'm getting nightmares and flashbacks these days of what happened, and it's piecing together all those memories. And I have memories of just after what had happened to me in that toilet block, running back up to the classroom, really distressed and things. And when I got there, the classroom door was locked, which is really unusual for my class because it was always open and people were in there. It was one of those classroom doors which had a little square window up high, and I couldn't see
Right.
into it. And I remember knocking and banging like I was really distressed on the door. And the teacher from the classroom opposite came out and started yelling at me for interrupting her class and really putting me down and stuff. And then she made me go stand in the corner of her classroom. And I remember seeing a girl from my church in that class and being, oh no, she's going to tell her mum that I'm being in trouble or whatever, or my parents will find out and things. And I remember being absolutely terrified about that. And then not knowing what had just happened to me in the toilets that day. I'm like, where is my class? What is going on? And yeah, processing and looking back at the memories and things. I remember my teacher left halfway through that year to have a baby. And so there's a period where we had relief teachers coming in who kind of must have done things differently. And yeah, when they left the classroom, they'd lock the door and turn the lights off. And so they'd basically, forgotten about me in the toilets and taken the kids out to the playground, because eventually I was, could see out the window that my class was down in the playground playing and I'd been forgotten about. And so, that kind of added to things. And I had a really distinct memory of that time getting shamed and in trouble in the class, and then distinct memory later on of the abuse. And then I didn't link the things together until only a couple of months ago. And then I realized that was the same day. So no wonder those, and they're the only sort of two memories I have of school that entire year. I can't remember anything else. But I remember stuff from kindergarten, year one, and all the other grades after that. In year two, only those two memories.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was first grade that I blocked out, and I remember before and I remember after. And then just like a few little tiny memories and then nothing. Yeah, part of the healing journey is your body realizing, okay, you're in a safe place now and we can start disclosing. Some of that is locked up tight. Now, let's move on to your healing journey. What things have you tried that have helped you? And what things have you tried that, you tried it, but it didn't really help? Or it made things worse, or neutral, or whatever. So, how has that been going for you?
I think one of the biggest things has been talking and sharing about what's happening and opening up and finding those right people where you feel safe.
Yes,
So
and
I
the
guess,
theme of the podcast, power of story. So,
yes,
yes, telling your story, just getting it out, telling another person.
engage.
So,
Yeah,
so healing. It doesn't have to be on a podcast, but finding someone to get it out of your head.
absolutely.
And it helps release the guilt and the shame and all of that, just getting it out and getting it out of your head. So your body doesn't have to store it anymore. Getting it out is so, so healing. Absolutely. So,
Yeah. So
yes, please
initially,
continue.
initially when I shared, it was just to immediate family and one friend, and so then I ended up booking in to see a psychologist and then a Christian counselor, and kind of just working through things and doing different techniques and replaying memories and digging further into family of origin sort of stuff, and kind of, and now I've just had that diagnosis of C-PTSD. But I guess, reconnecting with men and guys has been super helpful. And I've kind of always avoided those sort of real, in Australia we kind of call them blokes, blokey sort of culture, the beef and the beer and the footy and all that sort of sporty sort of side of
Okay,
things.
so in the U.S., we're like macho guys, big,
Yeah,
athletic.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We call it sort of blokey guys in Australia. But yeah, I went to my first football game ever a couple of weeks ago, and that was an interesting experience. I'll probably go again though; it was fun. I didn't know what was happening. But yeah, I guess I've been going to some men's retreats. They've been really helpful. And on one of those, I met, he doesn't like me calling him a mentor, but yeah, we kind of mentor each other. He's in his 60s and he's a survivor. And we've kind of, gotten really well. And we catch up every couple of months and have a chat with things. But yeah, I've kind of really found that sort of band of brothers through various retreats and things I've gone on. And some of them have similar things that have happened to them, some haven't, but they've all had sort of trauma in the past.
Right.
And just being able to open up and be honest and real with some other guys for the first time ever over the last year or two has been just incredible.
Right. They say healing happens in community.
It has to,
And yeah,
to help.
it's so true that just getting out and sharing your stuff with another guy and he sharing his stuff with you. And it's so
Yeah.
healing.
And one of the men's retreats I went on was one of the husband material ones in Australia here. And
Husband material, yay.
I went and they were asking, oh, does anyone want to volunteer and help run the music for the weekend? And I'm like, well, I'll play keyboard. And I did sing as a child, but I did stop singing when the abuse happened. That was one thing I couldn't do. My sort of love of and enjoyment of singing I just couldn't do it. And so I said, oh yeah, and I kind of just had this thought. I could hear God speaking to me saying, why don't you give it a go? And so I actually led worship for the first time ever out loud. But these were people
Wow.
I've never met before, and so they wouldn't have known that I had that thing, and they didn't think anything of
Right.
it. And I remember
Right.
getting there, and one of the other guys there, who's now a close friend, we kind of just we'd never met each other before, and he was playing guitar and singing, and I was playing keyboard and singing, and we just smashed out 23 songs in a row. And at the end of
Wow.
that, I said, this is the first time I've ever sung in front of somebody since like age 7 or 8. And he's like, what? And so, and then the week after that retreat, I actually, I was playing keyboard at church, and I said to the worship pastor, hey, so I've sung for the first time at a retreat last weekend. Would it be okay if I just, sing this week? And they're like, what? You can sing? And I happened to be doing the Bible reading at church that service, and just before the service, before I did the reading, I kind of shared about how I've been on this men's retreat and things, and God had given me my voice back, and I kind of said out loud, and this was the first time kind of more publicly that, some stuff happened to me as a kid. I didn't go into any detail whatsoever. I kind of just said that, been working through some childhood trauma and abuse sort of stuff. And that was my first time doing it out loud. And so I think sort of church community and getting into a men's Bible study has been really helpful and stuff. And I've had so many people behind the scenes who don't want to publicly say stuff about their story, but they've said, thank you so much for sharing. I'm a survivor too. And people in, my extended family and friends who've had stuff happen to them as a kid have disclosed things to me too. And it's just scary just how common it is around
the power of story. Because you shared, it's giving them permission to share, even if you might be the first person that they were actually ever opening up to, and realizing you can share, maybe I can share. And so, you are becoming that inspiration for them. That's awesome. And the singing, the power of that, I like how you phrase it. You lost your voice and then you found your voice. And God's like, you can do this. You can do the singing thing. It's like, okay, knowing that would be so key for your own healing. That's so awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
And music in general has been a real big sort of healing thing for me. I remember as a kid just being so overwhelmed. And in those days, it was the days of CDs and things. And so I used to have like a clock radio, which had the radio on it. And then I think sort of maybe it was year 7, year 8, I got my first stereo. I only had one CD in it. And I think in the 90s, it was a big thing to have one of those big stacker stereos, which you could have like 6 or 8 CDs at once. Big chunky ones. Whereas mine was chunky, but it wasn't as big as that. And I remember really wanting detachable speakers and things so I could run really long cords onto them and had them around my room and things. And I used to just, I discovered a genre of music called trip hop, which is sort of various, sort of electronic down tempo, sort of chill out sort of music. And I used to kind of just sit there in the dark because particularly we call it the HSC, the end of sort of year 12 school exams and things in Australia. And I remember being incredibly stressed during that period and leading up to that, and just, lying in the dark, just with music on, just to kind of try and relax my body before I got up to study and things. But music was kind of a big thing. And my bedroom actually, as a child, was kind of a big refuge, I guess, for me. And it kind of became a bit of an outlet, and I covered every square inch of that room in posters of bands and music artists and movies and things like that. It was a big old church manse, and every square inch, there was huge high ceilings. There was a fireplace in my room, so one of those big old sort of heritage houses and things. And everything was covered in that. And so that kind of became a sanctuary. And of course, with clashing with Dad, he said, if you turn up your speakers one more time, I'm going to take your speakers away. So he took the speakers from my stereo away, and I had my door taken off and my light globes taken out and things. And so, that was a bit of a tricky time growing up. But I guess in those times, music I had to kind of resort back to the clock radio to listening to the radio on it when I didn't have my stereo. But music is a big thing. And I struggle with it because my mind keeps wandering. But when I'm reading books, I think I've been reading mainly sort of survivor stories and things like that. So I don't know if you know Nathan Spiteri's story.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I came across him getting interviewed on a podcast randomly somewhere, and I'm like, I need to read his book, and because I hadn't really
he's been on this podcast as well. So
I hadn't really heard many other stories of survivors at that point, and so and I got Doug Carpenter's book. That was a really good one, and The Body Keeps the Score. I bought that book, so I've been reading a bunch of books. I do struggle with it because as I said, my mind wandering when I'm trying to concentrate on the page. So I found audiobooks have been helpful. And so I've been getting to podcasts quite a bit. Your podcast was one of the first ones I discovered when I was looking for something for male survivors out there. And there's been some other amazing ones out there. Like the Husband Material podcast has been great. But there's been a heap of sort of survivor ones out there. And I didn't realize how many were out there. And just listening to other survivors and hearing their stories has been incredibly helpful. And I guess one of the most super helpful things was trying to find out what supports there were in Australia. And so I had no idea who to turn to or what to look up and stuff. And even my psychologist wasn't quite sure. And so I did some Googling, and I found an organisation called SAMPSON, which stands for Survivors and Supporters Mates Network here in Australia.
Right. Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, and they're a non-Christian organisation, but they have been absolutely incredible. And they're government funded, but there's long wait lists to get any support, unfortunately. But when I did get it, it was life-changing. So I initially went with my older brother up to, they had a Survivors and Supporters Day And that was my first time ever meeting other survivors in person. And we were kind of in a room all together in like a hotel conference room sort of situation, and they kind of did their bit of a talk and a thing about statistics of child abuse in Australia and stuff. And then they ended up separating the survivors and the supporters. So the supporters were people like wives or partners and family members and friends, that sort of thing. And then all the survivors were put together in a room, a separate conference room, and being in a room with 30 other guys who were all survivors, or all walks of life and all ages. I wasn't the youngest. The people younger than me in their 20s and 30s, all the way up in somebody up in their 80s, I think. And a lot of it was sort of our first time ever meeting other survivors or sharing our story. And that was a real impactful moment for me. And just hearing these people and thinking, I've found my people. I'd gone through my life just not knowing what on earth to say or who to tell, and just meeting these people for the first time was incredible. And then flowing out of that, I was able to join an 8-week online support group, and that was really helpful, just over Zoom and things. And
Right.
that was incredible, because we kind of went in a lot of detail and basically started through sharing our stories and then going into our own abuse stories and then moving through that. And it was warts and all, very, quite traumatic at times. But we came out a lot stronger. And then kind of, what else have I done? Definitely getting to the exercise side of things, just being physically active and getting on top of that. And
Right.
I don't know if that was turning 40 or just getting back into exercise and running for the first time since high school. So I kind of stopped doing that in my 20s and 30s, and got back into running and feeling a lot better physically. Mentally is another story. I'm still having, like, just this week alone, I had some hectic nightmares and some things happen. And so, the
Right.
body does keep the score, and still trying
Right.
to work through some stuff.
I know when I was working through my stuff a few years ago, once the trafficking got disclosed and then working through all the stuff, nightmares, flashbacks, really, really bad. But it's like it was as if my brain had to unpack as many memories, dramatic memories as possible to get them out. And it took time to process all that. And occasionally, every once in a while, my wife, we sleep in separate rooms because of health issues and so forth. But she'll hear me on the other side of the house. You're screaming in the middle of the night. It's like, oh, I was. I don't even remember. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
So I still have the nightmares. Yeah. You mentioned your psychologist, and you obviously, I'm assuming that's the one who diagnosed you with the C-PTSD, which is complex PTSD, different from regular PTSD. And I've mentioned this before. That PTSD can happen after a traumatic event, even a one-time event. What complex PTSD is when the trauma happens again and again and again and again. So your brain that normally goes through the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all those S, I think there's 8 now. The last thing I read, and I've shared this before, but it doesn't know when to turn that off. And
yeah,
because it's trauma after trauma after trauma, that your brain stays in that fight, flight mode and doesn't turn off. And so all those brain chemicals, all that cortisol is just continually pumping through your system, hypervigilance, high alert, constantly aware, trying to keep you alive, trying to keep you safe. And it doesn't turn off. And so learning and through the healing process how to turn that off so you can heal from the hypervigilance and so forth. And it's a process for sure. And so how's it going with the psychologist? What things have you done there? And is just been one person, or have you tried several, or?
I've worked with one psychologist. I guess the big barrier to it, particularly here in Australia, I don't know what it's like over in the US, but is the cost. And when you find someone that you really connect with, but then they don't kind of meet the requirements for, I think I could get them half price, but just the wait lists that are there and then the cost of things, it's tricky. So I've done a number of sessions with my psychologist, but I'm meeting with my counselor more regularly at the moment.
And you don't
And
have insurance. It's state-run healthcare, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Like the UK. Okay, so it's just waiting list, and then but you still have to pay with like 50% of the price,
yeah,
and then the government pays the other half,
yeah.
and
But
huge waiting list.
even then it's not cheap. And so, but and I've still been seeing my counsellor quite often, which has been quite good. He's a former pastor himself, retired. He's moved into sort of the counselling side of things, and he's also a pastor's kid, so he kind of gets that side of things too. So he's been a
Right.
great support. and great
Right. Has
encouragement.
it
But
just been mostly talk therapy, or what other
yeah,
things has he done with
I
you?
can't remember some of the techniques that they were doing, but when I talked to my psychologist most recently, he was recommending EMDR. I haven't done that yet, but
Right.
I
Eye
know a lot of
movement
people have.
desensitization and reprocessing, which
Yeah,
is very common thing to do with trauma
yeah,
survivors. Yeah. Very
yeah.
common
So
treatment.
I may look into that in the future and things. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all finances and things at the moment.
Right.
But I've
Exactly.
done some applications and things to hopefully get some free sessions coming up. So hopefully, if that all goes through, yeah, that'd be really good to have that support. So yeah,
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So moving on. Yeah. Just in your intro, you mentor younger men navigating similar journeys. So tell me about that.
yeah. So just I've come along a bunch of other guys who've been survivors and all at different stages. And yeah, kind of just being encouraging them in their stories and feeling safe.
Has
They don't
that been from some of these meetups you've gone
Yeah,
to with
some
other
of the survivors
survivors?
in groups and things and connecting. And some of the guys are older, but
Right.
yeah, just kind of encouraging each other. I had a bunch of WhatsApp groups, like message chats and things, and we kind of
Right.
just checking in every now and then on guys. And with
Good.
SANT in that organisation, the supporters network in Australia, they do a monthly catch up Zoom. So I've been where I can going each month and joining in with that Zoom. And basically, it's all different survivors from the different 8-week courses over the years, kind of can catch up on that Zoom, and they're all from across Australia. And yeah, that's been really good and kind of seeing different faces and also familiar faces every month. And they have a different topic that they talk about each month. And so that's been really
Right.
good too, and being able to share my story there too. But I think one
Right.
of the key things at the moment is, being moving more into that sort of advocacy side of things. I don't even know how I found it, but I found like an online sort of call out for participants for some research studies from a bunch of different universities. So I've done 4 online ones, and some of them involved surveys, some of them were sort of Zoom interviews where we had to go into quite a lot of detail about different sorts of things. And I think one of them was focusing on the disclosure process and how that went. And then one of them also was on how to improve the experience of professional care, whether it be psychologists and counsellors and caseworkers, all that side of things. So kind of as a survivor, how was your experience of that? How can it get better?
Right.
And then I'm currently actually working with another university at the moment, working on community sport and how to make that safer for kids and things. And there's there's people from all levels of sport in Australia. There's some head coaches, national coaches. There's some Olympians in the group, and there's a little old me. But yeah, it's been a great chance just to look into that side of things in the sporting community. And there's other opportunities that have been coming out of that, which have been amazing. And
Yeah.
and then I
I
think
know
this is
I've heard so
yeah,
much about church abuse and scouting and so forth in Australia. I know in the US, sporting, there's
yeah,
huge abuses, even at the university level. That's coming out a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
recently for both men and women university athletes. But I hadn't heard anything about Australia. Is that a big problem there as well?
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of stuff's being
All levels?
it's been coming out now. And so the stuff that we've been working on with the university is kind of really getting to that ground root stuff of the community side of things. And having education for the coaches and any of the volunteers and other people involved in community sport, and just trying to make it a safer place for kids. And and also education for the kids so they know what's appropriate, what's not, what they can do and who they can tell. So I guess that was my issue when I was a kid. I wasn't aware of what was happening to me was necessarily wrong. Definitely knew with the younger kid, yes, but with the adult, it was so with all that grooming and stuff, it was kind of just, I guess this is normal for a coach to do this sort of stuff to a kid. And just helping kids to understand sort of those behaviors and things that probably not okay, and who they can
Right.
tell.
Yeah. Help them to know body autonomy, good touch,
Yep,
bad touch, and
absolutely.
yeah, that there's safe people to tell if bad stuff happens. Yeah, that's wonderful that you're giving back with that. So, any final words for that listener out there who is a survivor? Any final thoughts you would like to share with them?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not one to kind of hear God's voice audibly out loud before. And a couple of months ago, I did for the first time, and I was at one of my friends' houses that I met at one of these men's retreats, and I gotten up before everyone, and because I couldn't sleep as I normally can't, and I just lay out on the couch on their veranda overlooking, they back onto like a farm sort of land sort of thing, overlooking the paddocks where there's little sheep wandering around, and the sun was rising, and I heard the words, "The sun still rose." I'm like, okay, and I didn't know if it meant S-U-N or S-O-N sort of thing. And then later on, a few weeks later, I heard the words, "Share your story." And I didn't think anything of that. And then I heard those words again, "Share your story." And so I think the key thing is just to know that you're not alone, and just to find that one person at least in your life who's safe, and to reach out and to connect and kind of take that first step. It's super scary and traumatic at times, and it kind of has unlocked a whole heap of stuff that sometimes I don't know if I can necessarily cope or survive dealing with it. But I think just sharing the story and starting to be more open about it has just been incredibly healing. And it's kind of been introducing me to different people and opening up opportunities where I can kind of, have a voice again. And just to share that story, I think just, kind of feeling safe and comfortable, and knowing that there are support services out there that you can reach out to and turn to.
Right. And you've mentioned several resources, and you've sent me links for a lot of those. And we'll have links to just about everything in my very detailed show notes that you'll notice on most episodes. In fact, all the episodes. Yeah, I'm really good at doing all kinds of show notes with all kinds of links and resources for everyone. Thank you so much, Dave, for being here and sharing your story and coordinating our schedules. So when we're on very, very different time zones, I know you're the next day in the morning for you. So thank you for that. Yes, that's right. Oh, yes, so deep. Thank you so much, Dave. And we'll see you next time on the Healing for Male Survivors podcast. If you would like to learn more about my coaching with Polar Live Consulting, where I provide one-on-one coaching and group coaching, both with a focus on healing for male survivors, reach out to me at polarliveconsulting.com. That is Polar spelled P-O-L-A-R. I would love to hear from you. I want to hear your story. If you would like your story featured on this podcast, contact me via my website. If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find me, and I really want to spread this message of healing and hope to others. And remember, you are not alone. Healing is possible, and the abuse was not your fault. Let me repeat that. The abuse was not your fault. See you next time on the Healing for Male Survivors podcast.